The morning sun filtered through the kitchen window of the small cabin on Maple Ridge Road, casting golden squares across the worn wooden floor. Sarah Mitchell, 67, poured kibble into a metal bowl while her German shepherd, Max, sat perfectly still, his amber eyes tracking her every movement. "Good boy," she whispered, her voice hoarse. She'd been feeling off for days now, a persistent cough, fever that came and went, an exhaustion that seemed to settle into her bones. Max's ears perked forward. He tilted his head, studying her face with an intensity that had always unnerved her neighbors. It was as if he could see through skin and bone, reading the secrets her body was trying to hide. She placed the bowl down, but Max didn't move. Instead, he pressed his massive head against her leg, a low whine escaping his throat. "I'm fine, boy, just tired." But they both knew she was lying. That night, as snow began to fall outside, Sarah collapsed in the hallway. The last thing she heard before darkness took her was Max's frantic barking, echoing through the empty cabin. And that's when everything changed. When Sarah's eyes fluttered open, the room was spinning. She was lying on the cold hallway floor, a blanket draped awkwardly over her body, her head pounded, her mouth was dry as desert sand. But she wasn't alone. Max sat beside her, so close she could feel the warmth radiating from his body. His eyes never left her face. On the floor next to her was her cell phone, screen cracked, but still glowing. How did that get here? She tried to remember. The phone had been on the kitchen counter, plugged into the charger, at least 10 feet away from where she'd fallen. With trembling fingers, she reached for it. The screen showed 3:42 a.m., 17 missed calls, dozens of texts. Her daughter, Emma, had been trying to reach her. Sarah's fingers were too weak to type. The phone slipped from her grasp. Max immediately picked it up in his mouth, gently, like he was carrying a wounded bird, and placed it back in her hand. "Max," she breathed, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Good boy." But even as she said it, a terrifying realization crept over her. She couldn't get up. Her body refused to obey. The fever was worse now, her vision blurring at the edges. She was trapped in her own home, 2 miles from the nearest neighbor, in the middle of a snowstorm. And Max refused to leave her side. Over the next 2 days, Sarah drifted in and out of consciousness. Time became meaningless, a soup of fever dreams and brief moments of clarity. But through it all, Max was there. When she was too weak to reach her water bottle, he dragged it to her. When she shivered uncontrollably, he lay across her body, sharing his warmth. When she tried to call for help but couldn't speak, he seemed to understand her desperation. On the second night, Sarah woke to find Max gone. Panic seized her chest. "Max," she croaked, her voice barely a whisper. Then she heard it scratching at the front door. Determined, rhythmic. She turned her head, and in the moonlight streaming through the window, she saw Max clawing at the wood, his nails scraping paint and splinters flying. He was trying to get out. "No, boy, stay," but the words died in her throat. Max turned to look at her, and in that moment, Sarah saw something in his eyes she'd never seen before. Not just intelligence, but purpose. A decision had been made. With a powerful lunge, Max threw his entire body against the door. Once, twice. On the third hit, the old lock gave way and the door burst open. Snow and freezing wind exploded into the cabin. Max disappeared into the darkness. And Sarah was alone. The snow was falling so thick that Max could barely see 3 feet ahead. The temperature had dropped to 15 degrees below zero. His paws sank deep with each step, ice crystals forming on his fur. But Max kept running. He knew where he needed to go. He'd walked this route 100 times before, down the long driveway, left on Maple Ridge Road, past the abandoned Miller farm, straight to the highway where the gas station glowed like a beacon. Where people were. His muscles screamed. His lungs burned with each breath of frozen air, but the image of Sarah's pale face, her shallow breathing, her weakening heartbeat, these things pushed him forward. Halfway down the road, Max stumbled. His front leg gave out, sending him tumbling into a snowbank. For a moment, he lay there, exhausted, defeated. Then he heard it, Sarah's voice in his memory. "Good boy, such a good boy." Max pulled himself up and kept going. Because some bonds are stronger than nature itself. Jake Morrison had worked the night shift at Route 7 Gas and Go for 3 years, and nothing surprised him anymore. Drunks, lost tourists, the occasional raccoon trying to steal chips, he'd seen it all. But he'd never seen this. At 11:47 p.m., a German shepherd burst through the automatic doors, snow-covered and wild-eyed. Jake jumped back, knocking over a display of air fresheners. "Holy, get out, go on, get." But the dog didn't leave. Instead, it ran straight to Jake, grabbed his jacket sleeve in its mouth and pulled. "Hayes, let go." The dog released him, ran to the door, barked 3 times, then ran back and grabbed his sleeve again. Jake's irritation turned to confusion. The dog was telling him something. You need help." The German shepherd barked once, sharp, urgent. Jake's hands were shaking as he pulled out his phone. Okay, just show me." And that's when the real miracle began. Jake followed Max into the storm in his pickup truck, the dog running ahead through the snow, never hesitating, never slowing. When they reached the cabin, Jake's blood ran cold. The front door was wide open. Snow had blown inside, covering everything in white. "Oh God, hello, is someone here?" Max bolted inside and Jake followed. In the hallway, illuminated by his flashlight, he found her, an elderly woman, barely conscious, lips tinged blue. Ma'am, can you hear me?" Sarah's eyes opened to slits. "Max, I'm calling 911 right now, just hold on." While Jake made the call, Max lay down beside Sarah, placing his head on her chest. His tail wagged once, weak but hopeful. The ambulance arrived 17 minutes later. As the paramedics loaded Sarah onto the stretcher, she reached out with trembling fingers. "Max, my boy." The German shepherd pressed his nose to her hand. "Ma'am, we need to go now," the paramedic said gently. "He saved me," Sarah whispered. "He saved me." But the story wasn't over yet. 3 days later, Sarah lay in a hospital bed, IV tubes running into her arms, but alive. The doctors said she'd had severe pneumonia complicated by an infection. Another day without treatment, and she wouldn't have made it. Her daughter Emma sat beside her, holding her hand. Tears streaming down her face. "Mom, when you didn't answer your phone, I was going crazy. I called the sheriff's department, but they said they couldn't check on you until the storm passed." "Where's Max?" Sarah asked, her voice still weak. Emma smiled. "He's being kept at the vet's office. Mom, they found something." Sarah's heart clenched. "Is he okay?" "He's fine, better than fine. But Mom, they scanned his microchip when they took him in for observation." Emma pulled out her phone and showed Sarah a document. "Max isn't just any dog, he was a military working dog, retired 4 years ago after serving in a search and rescue unit. His handler died, and he was adopted out through a veterans program. To you." Sarah stared at the screen, memories flooding back. The adoption agency, the words they'd used, "This dog is special, he's trained to save lives." She'd thought they were just being kind. "Mom," Emma said, her voice breaking, "Max has saved 14 people during his service. You're number 15. And suddenly, everything made sense. When they brought Max into Sarah's hospital room, he walked with the dignity of a soldier returning from duty. His fur had been cleaned and brushed. His eyes were bright and alert. But when he saw Sarah, the professional discipline melted away. He bounded to her bedside, his tail wagging so hard his entire back end shook. Sarah wrapped her arms around his neck and sobbed into his fur. "You saved me. You wonderful, beautiful boy, you saved me." Max licked her face, his tail never stopping. Jake Morrison was there too, standing awkwardly by the door. "Ma'am, I just wanted to check on you, make sure you were okay." "You helped save my life," Sarah said, reaching out her hand. "Both of you." Jake shook his head. "That dog did all the work. I've never seen anything like it. He knew exactly where to find me, exactly how to make me understand. It's like he could think." Sarah looked into Max's amber eyes. He always could." The local news ran the story. Donations poured in to help with Sarah's medical bills. The veterans organization that had placed Max with Sarah received hundreds of applications from people wanting to adopt retired military dogs. But more than that, people began to see something they'd forgotten, that loyalty isn't just a word, that love isn't just a feeling, that some bonds transcend language, species, and even death itself. 6 months later, Sarah stood in her backyard, watching Max chase butterflies through the tall grass. Her health had returned. The cabin had been repaired and winterized. Emma visited every weekend now. But the biggest change was in how Sarah saw the world. Every morning she woke up grateful for the sunrise, grateful for the coffee that warmed her hands, grateful for the steady breathing of the dog sleeping at the foot of her bed. She'd learned something that winter night on the frozen hallway floor: we are never truly alone, not when we are loved, not when we've given our hearts to someone, whether they have 2 legs or 4. Max had crossed miles of freezing darkness to save her, not because he was ordered to, not because he was rewarded, but because that's what love does. It runs into the storm, it breaks down doors, it refuses to give up, even when giving up would be easier. Sarah knelt down, and Max trotted over, pressing his head against her chest. She could feel his heartbeat, steady, strong, faithful. "Good boy," she whispered, "such a good boy." And in that moment, in that simple exchange of affection, was everything worth living for. Because heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear fur. And sometimes the greatest stories are the ones that remind us what we are capable of when we love without limits.